I'll share my screen. Okay. Is everything good right here? Yes.
Yeah, it looks
Okay.
good.
All right. So welcome to the last technical workshop of this year / semester. We're gonna go over Firebase and combine it with Flutter. So we're gonna go over the tech stack of Flutter Fire. So there's a link to my GitHub repo. It has the project files in it. So the main is the finished one actually, and then Flutter is like just it's the base layout file. And that's what I'm gonna start with right now. And so Firebase is a backend service. This is the website for Firebase, and it has a bunch of products that you can use. For example, there's tools for development for the backend as a service. There's two databases. Today we'll actually be using Firestore. Yeah, Cloud Firestore right here. We'll also be using Authentication for the registering and logging in our applications. There are other services right here. You can look at the documentation and their use cases. We also have different products for like analytics. We won't be using that because it's not really necessary for this basic tutorial of Firebase. And we also have the last one for engage, which is also analytics. And in-app messaging is getting more popular. So if you want to make a chat app with Flutter and Firebase, you can go ahead and use this. But today we're just going to we're going to make a simple application. I already created kind of like the Flutter application already. I'm actually going to run it in Android Studio. That's what I'll be using, and I have my Android emulator right here. I'm actually going to just assume that we all have Flutter installed, and Firebase is already set up in the project files, so we save a lot of time. If you need help installing Flutter and Firebase, you can definitely go to the documentation and also our documentation for Flutter and Firebase. There's also a lot of videos and articles on how to install that and set up your project. But I just want to touch on the base details of how to integrate Firebase into your Flutter application. And so I'm going to go ahead and actually run this Flutter application. So last time we covered main.dart. This needs to finish loading before I can actually view main. So main, I'm running the app. My app is a stateful widget, and this is kind of the base layout. So this is kind of routing going on. Logging in, this route login will lead to this file login screen. The register will actually lead to registration screen, and the home will go to home screen. But we're gonna run the app, loading it onto this emulator. And I also have 3 files in a directory called screens. So this is kind of like the front end, the screens that we'll be seeing throughout our Flutter application. Hopefully it loads faster. Meanwhile, this is documentation for Flutter Fire. So if you need it, you can just look up Flutter Fire on Google, and then you can look at documentation for each product. So what I used to make this application was authentication and the Firestore documentation, and you can see all the methods that are given and all the use cases. So there's that. So the UI for the Firebase connection is if I go to get started, and this is my app. This is Flutter Fire tutorial. You can see all these products that were listed in the intro page for Firebase. I already have my authentication set up. There's no users yet, but I'm gonna show you how to make it so your Flutter application allows for users. And we also have the Firestore database. There are no collections yet, but we're gonna get to how we can store our data in this database. And so it looks like our Flutter application is done running. So I have this simple login page with the email password. So what you can do right now is we don't have a backend connected to it. So it's literally just a static page. I'll type in literally anything that I want and log in, and it'll just it just, the button just leads me to to this home screen. So the problem with not having a backend is that I can't verify if the user was registered, because I can just enter anything I want this long and it'll still lead to the home page. I do have error checking, so you can't leave it blank. But if I just leave it like that, it will log in. And same with the register page. Don't have an account, register here. Same error handling. I can literally enter anything I want and it'll still lead me to the home page. Same thing with another problem that comes with not having a backend is when I add a post, it won't save anything. Like I don't have anything on here. And when I log back in, it's just empty. So there's no data being stored. And what's nice about Firebase is that you can actually make it live, like reload right away. And so it'll show right when you create the post. But right now, since we don't have a database and we don't have authentication, this app is pretty much useless. There's no point of anything. So if I compare this app to like social media like Instagram, we just have a bunch of users signing in with random accounts that don't really matter, and they post and the posts aren't getting saved. So it's just, there's no use to this application. That's why having a backend to this project is very important. And so that's what we're going to get started with today. So Firebase. So I think what we want to start with is probably setting up the initial Firebase files. So on the project file I saved under, if you check out the Flutter branch, it should have this project that I loaded onto my emulator. But what we're going to start with is we're going to go to pubspec.yaml. So if you have used Node before, it's kind of like the npm packages. And we're going to go into dependencies. And so we have Flutter right here. So Flutter is the dependency we have, and the SDK is right here. And what we need is we're going to use packages that are already created. Firebase already has packages. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. So what is it? So I'm gonna look at Firebase. And we have Firebase. We have Firebase, Flutter, Chat UI, Firestore UI, Firebase Core. I believe this one's the right one. Firebase Core is what we want. So I'm gonna load that. And then you can go to installing and it shows you, yeah, that looks correct. So what you have to do is you can either run this file in Flutter or you can just add it. I'm just going to copy and paste it. Dependencies, make sure it's aligned with my Flutter application. And then what you have to do is run Flutter pub-get. But Android Studio already is familiar with Flutter. So it's detecting that there's a new dependency, and it realizes that we need to run the command pub-get, Flutter pub-get. So I can just click this and it runs it for me, which is convenient. We also need other things for application. We can't just have Firebase. This is just the initial plugin. And we also want to have Firestore and Firebase Auth. So we want to take this authentication. What else do we need? Where is Firestore? We need Firestore because that's what we're going to use. Okay. And so I'm going to go ahead and install these two. So it's most of them are the same. You literally just copy and paste the dependency in and run Flutter pub-get. And add this one as well. Okay, and then for those who aren't using Android Studio, you can literally just run Flutter. It should work. Okay, well, that's what you're supposed to run if you can use the Flutter command. Right now, I don't have the path to it, to the SDK. So I'm just gonna use the Android Studio. That's why I kind of like using this IDE because it makes it really, I don't have to really change much. It really just the text where my Flutter SDK is in my file directory. But yeah, so we now have these 3 packages installed within our application. And then so we're gonna go to main, and what we have to do is we're going to have to initialize the Firebase app. So you have to run this command in our main Firebase. I'm gonna import that. So that's imported automatically. And then initialize app. Okay. And so because what Flutter supports is hot reloading, so we can press this like lightning bolt. But the issue with that is that it doesn't reload like these methods right here. And so we want to reload Firebase. So we're gonna actually stop this app. We're gonna have to reload it so that the Firebase initialize app is initialized again. Oh. And so, okay. Yeah, so it might take a while again. But what I can do now is I'll just go over like what I have Flutter portion so far. So we looked at the login screen. We have a stateful widget. So what I did was I made a form key. So we're using a form to have a field for the email and a field for the password. You can definitely add more fields if you are creating more complex app, but I just want to touch the basics of Firebase and Flutter. I'm just going to create a simple email and password app. So I'm going to just go over the main sections. We have the text, which is like the big login text that we have in the front. We also have, so this is each of the forms, the validator. If it's empty, then it says enter your email. And password, same thing. And then we have an elevated button. And so you can press login now. And on pressed, it calls the login method. And right now, login method just clears the 2 forms, the fields, and then it pushes the home page. So it just leads to the home page, and there's nothing that happens. So there's no data stored right now. Same with the register button, we just need to change the navigation to register. And so so similar to login, we have the email and password fields. It's pretty much the same code. Yeah, same code. Same thing with the register. We look down here and it just clears the 2 fields and pushes and routes to the home screen. So there's no data stored. So these methods are useless. I'm gonna go over this last part, the home screen. So we have the title and description fields, which is just for the adding post. And then we have a list of the posts, which we're going to display. So we have the app bar, so this navigation bar. We have the home icon, we have the name home. We have the logout button. The logout button too, where did it go? It just leads back to login. Doesn't really sign out the user, I guess, because I mean, we're not logged in the first place. With the body, which is this part of the application, the white part, the item count for, so it's kind of like a for loop where it's like for the length of the post, we're gonna have a card that shows the title and description. But right now, we don't have posts because it's an empty list. The floating action button is really nice to use because it creates this nice button on the lower right hand side, and it's just a plus button, and it calls create post, which shows a dialog and adds a post based on the form fields. And then if you press cancel, it just pops it kind of like out of the stack. But otherwise, a create button calls the submit action, which right now it does add it to the post list, but it doesn't really display anything because it's not really dynamic in a way. And so I want to start by just starting with just the authentication. I think that'd be good start to it because it's pretty easy. So if I go right here, okay, so when I initialized my Firebase application, I had the authentication and I initialized the authentication. So you have options. You can use all these providers. So I can log in with Google, Apple, Microsoft, Yahoo, Facebook, GitHub, Game Center, Twitter. But we're just gonna go with email password because it's the easiest one. You can even do anonymous where you don't even have to sign in the user. But I think there's not really much to learn if we do anonymous. So I'm gonna go with email and password. And so that's what's happened. So we can only log in with email and password. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to create a authentication service. So under lib, I'm gonna create a new directory called services. So this will be a directory of just backend services. I'm gonna create a Dart file. So I'm just gonna call it auth service. And no, it's okay. Okay. So this is gonna be a class auth service. Okay. And so we're gonna initialize an instance of a Firebase auth instance. So this will be used to call all the like Firebase implemented already like methods. So we don't have to make our own like authentication. So we're gonna start with just registering the user because we can't really log in until we have the registered user. And we're just gonna take two parameters, an email and a password. That's all we need to log in the user. And we're gonna do a try catch block. Okay, why is this giving me? Okay, I think I'll be okay. Okay, try catch. Because errors happen. So for errors, it's just simple. I just want to print it out. You could definitely create your own like screen for errors, but don't really want to do the extra stuff. Just want to go over the basics. So what we want to do is for actually registering the user, we want to go for user credential. This is from I believe this is from Firebase. Yeah, this is from the package Firebase Auth. It's returned from authentication requests such as create user with email and password. And actually, that's what we're going to use. We're going to use, because it's a future, we want to await and create with email and password. And wow, that's simple. It kind of just already did it for me, but you just have to, we want async if it's await. So async and await go together. And so yeah, we're gonna create user with email and password. So this is the credential to actually be able to log in. And user is gonna be result.user. So let's take a look at this class, a user account. So that's just a user account, I guess. And it's giving us a value of type user question mark can't be assigned to. Okay, so I guess result user is giving us a value of user question mark. So what I can do is I can just put a question mark. Okay, that works. And then I'm gonna return the user. Okay, that's not too difficult. So it's really not too difficult because we're using the package that Firebase already provided us. And so what do we want to do next? We have our service, but now we have to actually hook it up to the front end. So to hook it up to the registration screen, I'm going to create an instance of the Firebase or the auth service that we created. So this is not the Firebase package, but this is our own auth service that we created and automatically imports it. I think this should work too. There we go. And it's in our folder structure, so I can just use that instead of package because so I can remember that it's my own custom class, not from Firebase. And so we create an instance of auth service, and the UI looks fine. I don't think there's anything to change, but what we need to change is this register method that's called when we click this button. And this method right here, validate, it checks if the validators, such as like making sure like the text form fields are empty, are okay. So as long as these, so I can't really run this until it's actually filled in. And that's when it validates. So, okay, I need to, okay, like that. Okay. And then, so we're gonna go to the register method. I believe email and password should clear, and it should navigate, but we just need to store that data that when we create a new user. So I want to use a dynamic class for this. So dynamic is just a dynamic object. And I'm gonna call it result and await. And this is the auth service instance that we created, and we're gonna call our custom method. And we have email, and let me fix this first. Await, we want it async again. And so we have email and password, but we never declared it. How we want to get these two, the text from these two form fields. So how can I do that? So email controller is my form field. We can use other classes, but preferably this is nice because we have validators. So how can I get this text? So I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna take the email controller. And wow, there's a text. There's a text variable. Oh, just get text. Okay. So current string, the user editing. So now we have the text of the email controller. And same thing for the password controller. All right. And so this is gonna lead to this. So if it returns a user, then we should be able to log in. So we want to make sure that the result is not null. So I'm just gonna print it. You don't want to print anything when you're actually deploying the application, but right now we just want to make sure it's working. And I'm gonna put every, so this else it block is when we actually have a user that's given. I'm gonna also just print that too. Okay, and so I'm gonna reload this, and let's see if our registering works. So I'm just gonna type the validators are still working. And remember from before, when I typed in spam, it worked, but now it doesn't. And if you look at the console log, it says email is not valid. So that's this block right here. So when I go to the email, the field and type in just random text, it doesn't register anymore, because when I go here, if I lead back here, so email controller text is the ASDF, and I go back to my own method, and it goes back to the create user with email and password, and the email, the ASDF is passed in through here. It doesn't give me a user because it's not a valid email. So that's very convenient. So I don't have to check with whatever like regex if it's like an actual email. So I have to actually use an email. So let's just put my name, danieljoe@gmail.com, and you can also blur the password text, but I'm just gonna, just for the sake of this, I'm gonna create my secure password of 123456. I'm gonna register it, and voila, the user is printed. So display name is null, email verified is anonymous. There's a bunch of data that's just passed. And if you actually reload the Firebase app, and there's my email, and now it says it's created. Let's see if I can extend. Created November 18, signed in November 18, and my user ID is right here. So now I am logged in. And if I just go back, I can I'll try to log in with the same or register the same email. And it gives me email is not valid because we already have an email registered. So it's very convenient to have that, the error checking already working without me doing anything. And so if we have a register screen, we want to also have a login screen. So we're going to go back to our Auth service because this is where we declare all our custom made authentication stuff. I'm going to create a login. It's going to be a future. And same thing. Since we only have 2 fields, we only want email and password. Create as simple as we want. It's going to be async because we have future. It's going to pretty much be the same like code as the register, except we're going to use sign in with email and password, and it's already auto typed in for me. And then since, yeah, I don't have to do much because I can just return result.user. And I'm going to catch the error if there is an error. And yeah, we can return all too. All right, that's simple. It's just another method that's given by Firebase. And then we're just going to go to login screen and just pretty much kind of do the same thing we just did with the registration screen. So we're going to go right here and we're going to initialize another instance of Auth service because this is a different class. Okay, we have that same thing from the registration. The front end looks fine and amazing. So I'm just gonna kind of mess with the functionality. So we have the login method and oh shoot. Okay. All right. And what do we do here? I think it's just pretty much the same thing. Dynamic result. Auth.login. Email. Make sure to change it to async. Mine already just automatically did that. Password.text. If result equals null, then I want to print could not log in, check email and password. You can also make it so that when instead of printing it, you can also make it so like it just displays on the app. But that's for later if you are kind of bored and you want to make your UI more interesting than this boring, I don't know, print statement. And okay, and so pretty much the same thing. I didn't really do much. Pretty much the same thing as registration. It's just that I just have a different error message and different method that was called. So I'm gonna reload this, make sure it's reloaded. Okay, and so I'm gonna log in, like I did before with when there was no backend, and it doesn't seem like it's work. Okay, it says could not log in, check email and password. And the Firebase actually says the email address is badly formatted. Okay, I mean, doesn't have an @ and a .com, so yeah, it should be badly formatted. But when I enter my email, or I'm gonna start with the bad one. Okay, because this is a valid email and this is a valid password, but there's no user record corresponding to this identifier. The user may have been deleted. Oh, okay, so I guess there's no user in the database. But what if I add this? My email is right, it's logged in here, but we didn't use this password. Okay, the password is invalid or the user does not have a password. Okay, I remember making a password, so it must be invalid. Okay, let's try this. And we're logged in. So that's pretty much authentication. And one last thing is that if we have a login, we have to create a logout as well. So I'm gonna create a quick logout method. Let's get this, yeah. So future logout async try. Just gonna, and we have one last easy method, sign out, and that's all. Like I don't have to do anything else. It's very nice and easy. Nice to create an application like this. Okay, and so I created my logout method. And so what do I have to do? I have to go to my home screen because that's where my sign out button is. And I have to do the same thing again, which you may be bored of, but we have to do it, which is to create an auth service instance again. And then where should I? So I go to the logout method, and I just call the method that we created. So this is our custom method, auth logout. Okay, so let's see how this works. Okay. Okay, and I guess it kind of printed what happened. It was logged out. I guess you can't really see. Here, let's see if we can. Okay, let's. Where's this returning? I wonder if this will work. It should work. Okay, let's reload this. Okay, I'm gonna log in. And then logged in right there. I'm gonna log out. Okay, it shows the instance of future, but it kind of shows that we signed out based on the Firebase auth. So that's pretty much all for the auth part. And we can definitely make more users by registering them all. Actually, I'll go ahead and do that. I'll just create that just for the sake of it. And that, so you can see the many users. So like big applications will have a bunch of users signed in and created, and you can also delete them, pretty much reset password, disable account, delete, so you can kind of blacklist people. And so yeah, that's pretty much for all the auth part. And so we have a nice authentication, and now we want to create posts because user can log in, but users can't see any posts because we can't create posts. And so I'm gonna close the auth file. I think I'm gonna close the login and registration because we're kind of set on that. Okay, and then I'm gonna create, let's see, I'm gonna create a new service. So I'm gonna create a new Dart file. It's gonna be called db.service. Oh, it's already a Dart file. db service, so it's gonna be a database. Create a new class, database service, final collection reference. So this is a collection. For your reference, Firestore is not a SQL database, it's a NoSQL. But that's a long intro, I guess, but it's just documents and collections. But I'll just kind of go over how to implement it for today. We have the posts, which is going to be our collection title. Firestore. So this is the package we're going to bring in. And then instance.collection. So we're going to make, and we want to put the name of it. So post is a name. And I'm going to create two methods. I'm going to create a create and a get method for the post. So I have post ID. What else want? I want title. I want a description. I want date time. We're not going to display date time, but it'd be nice to have. It's a future, so it's async. Then I want to return this simple. Okay, so this is a collection. Return await post doc. So this is document reference. I want to create a new doc with this post ID, and I want to set it to, I'm going to use kind of Okay, so for these curly braces, you can kind of call the parameter or like the field of each element in the NoSQL database. So there's that. And there's that. Okay. Okay. And so it's really just a one-liner method because we're using what Firestore gave us. We're going to set the title, the description, and the date. I also want to create another method, get post. Get posts. It's async as a future. Try return post dot. Okay, and we're gonna return snapshots. So snapshots is clear results of the location. So there are going to be a lot of classes in these packages that we don't know what they are, but we can definitely use a documentation to know what it is. The ID also shows that it's returning a stream of data in type snapshots. And so we kind of know what type it is. So based on that, we can kind of play with the methods and initialize those variables. Oh, that's okay. And then I'm gonna get error. Print error. Yikes, I can't type today. Then return. Yep, I can't type for my life. Okay. And this is just our two methods. You can also create one for, I believe for updating, you can also use a set method. But you'll also have to create more UI to edit it. And there's also, you can also delete stuff from the collection. So this is our DB service. And then we don't need anything else except editing, editing the home screen. Okay, so let me pull that up. All right. Yeah. Okay. So what do I want to do? What do I want to do? I guess we can start with creating posts because I can't really test the getting post if there's no posts. So yeah, so submit this method. The create button is what kind of triggers the creation of posts. Oh, and yeah, this is from our previous. You can kind of see it, but it's not automatic, so it's not really that useful. But so I'm gonna go to submit action. So this is what we did originally. We just added to the list. But what I want to do is I don't want to add it to the list. I want to add it to our database. So I'm gonna delete that. Call the database service, the instance of it, and I'm gonna create a post. So these are the parameters that we defined. Post ID, we don't have a post ID, but I feel like something unique is the date time. I feel like we're like the only users that will be on this Firebase app right now. So like doing it date time now, it will work for now because we don't have a lot of users. But if you're like Instagram, Facebook, and you're like a global social media company, then yeah, there are definitely people around the world posting the same time as you are. But for right now, this will do. And then we're gonna just get the title controller. This is the same thing we did for the auth. And then the text. And then we also have the date, which is just datetime. And we're just using a datetime class. Oh, okay. And so that's datetime.now. And yeah, that should. And the submit actions, I'm gonna make a comment. Get posts. So we want to get posts later. So that's creating a post. So when I click this, it's just, I'm gonna reload it actually. Yeah. Okay, so I think I should create, yeah. All right, so there's a lot of text right here. I'm gonna refresh this right here, and there we go. We have our own post. So we have our date, we have description, and we have a title. Maybe I should have titled it better. I'll just put my first post. Uh, I can't type. Okay. All right. And you can see it's already like that green, it just like loaded up and I can't type my first to post. Yeah, I can't type. But so yeah, we have the create is working. Now we just want to make sure, yeah, to nice. Yeah. We want to make it so that we can get it. So what we want to do is so remember, if I look back here, it's creating a stream. I want to call this method, but I can only do that if I can kind of get this stream. So it's a type of stream. So I'm gonna make a stream, not stream, post. Instead of this, I want to use a stream. What is it giving me? An error. Non-nullable instance must be initialized. Okay. And the nice thing about IDs is that it gives you suggestions. I'll just try that. We'll see if that works. And then I want to use this life cycle function init state. So this is when the screen is initialized, the state is initialized. It's gonna call these methods. So using inheritance, and then I want to create a method called fetch post. So this is what's going to be used to call the get. I'm going to make dynamic result equals await database service dot get posts. If result equals, so same thing, we're kind of just checking if it's null. We don't want to give users difficult time with our bugs. And so what we're going to do now in this else block is we have our result, which is all the posts in the stream, and we want to set state. We want to set the state of this to equal the result. So this is going to put in the stream the result of the get post method. So it's going to get this collection. And then I'm going to call that right here. So that should work. And then I'm going to print, I don't know if this will work, but let's see. Oh, it's giving me an error. Oh gosh. That's because we changed the name post. And so this body, this list view builder is not working. So that means we have to fix this list view builder. And so list view is for kind of like list item view. But what can we use to go from a stream? Thankfully, Flutter has something called the stream builder. So stream builder is right here. There we go, stream builder. So what we can do is we can take our stream, just posts, the builder context. So this is gonna take each snapshot from the post. So you can kind of look at it kind of like a list of snapshots. So there's one snapshot each. And we're gonna do some error handling again, snapshot that. So if snapshot does not have data, this is most likely when this is gonna be it's gonna be loading. So I'm gonna be loading, and then after it's loading, I want to return a list view. So similar to what we just had, but we're gonna use our snapshot. .docs.map. So I'm gonna go through each snapshot with the documents, and maps is like a nice function for me to go through each post. And then I'm gonna return center child. So this is similar to the code we just had with our list view builder. I'm kind of just gonna run through this and then explain a little more. Okay, so this is gonna go through each post and it's gonna get the title field and description field. Okay, why is it giving me an error? The argument type cannot be assigned to list widget. And then we can just pull the to list. There we go. Is that, oh, okay, why is this giving me an error? Okay, semicolon, okay. Okay, semicolon. Okay. And what do you want from me? You want a semicolon? Okay. And that should, okay, let me, I think I am one too deep. Okay. All right. Something is wrong. Okay, you want this? Here, wait. Let me see what I have in my. Okay, so to list, and then, okay, that should be working. Okay, I don't know why I was getting that error, but I guess, okay, now it's working. That's all that matters. So we don't need a list of posts anymore. We're gonna use Stream Builder, and I'm gonna print the posts, and I'm gonna reload this. All right, list dynamic. Why are you doing this to me? Okay, the list dynamic is not a subtype of function result. Yeah, let me reload this. Let me reload and let's see if there is an issue. Yeah, so when you reload Flutter, you can go get a cup of coffee. So you don't have to sit here like I am, just waiting for this thing to load. Okay, why is it not even, it's not even running on me. Hmm. Okay. Interesting. I wonder why it's stopped main.dart. Yeah. Also, what's nice about this emulator is that you can see that I have my app right here. Pull it up. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna restart this. Terminate you. Okay, I don't know what is going on. But what it's supposed to do pretty much is that the stream builder will be working and it will just get all the posts that we created. Wow, that's really not like me today. Yeah, I just blame it on the machine so I don't mess up. I'm just gonna destroy. Gotta Android Studio. What are you doing to me? Okay, finally. Okay, let's reload this. Gotta act like I'm kind to Android Studio for like 7 more minutes before this workshop is over. Okay, let's hope that it's working. Gotta reload my Android emulator. Pixel 4. Pixel 4. Okay, there you go. And no connected devices. There's. Okay, now it is connected, right? Should be working. Should be working. running the Gradle. Okay, if this doesn't work, I'm just going to run my main branch so that everyone gets a chance to see what it should be working like. Yeah, so if you're trying to set up Firebase on your Flutter application, you have to go to Android for Android apps and iOS for the iOS apps. But yeah, for me, iOS is a lot more confusing. So I just did Android for today, but yeah, you can definitely look that up. Okay, I should be almost done. Okay. Okay, let's try logging in. Okay, and oh my gosh. Why aren't you working? Oh. Field post has not been initialized. Okay, I'm just gonna actually just run my main branch because we don't have much time. So I'm just gonna change my don't check out. Um, okay. Get dependencies. The code for this one will be on the GitHub repo again. Once again, it'll be on the main branch. So if you need reference, you can definitely go to that. But one thing that I did forget to mention is that once we call the init, or once you call fetch post in the init in the beginning, we also want to call it again when we create a post, so that like after we create a post, we can change the stream to make sure it's the new post is also updated as well. Yeah, and I think that should be everything that I need to mention, pretty much based on Firebase. Definitely try other things. You can look up, I mean, there's machine learning, which is pretty interesting. I think a lot of people are interested in that. Cloud messaging is good. Okay, let's see if this works. And so, okay. Okay, loading. Okay, there we go. So this is what it should look like. So it pretty much got all the posts. And once I create a post is my second post. Hello. And there you go. The posts are made. And then you can also go with editing and deleting and commenting, and you can do all those fancy features after you kind of get the basics of this application. So yeah, that is pretty much the Flutter Fire workshop for today. And yeah, we'll be starting to prepare more for the solution challenge, which will start late January, I believe. More information will follow. Yeah, that's all from me.